Okay. What I want to talk about today is I read a story about a guy who's in jail. He was convicted when he was 17 of a number of rape counts and so on. He was tried as an adult. He was given 1,000 years, with at least a third of that having to be controlled by a judge, which basically means the only way he was going to ever get parole in those first 333 years was via a judge. He is now appealing the case because he says it's unconstitutional that he was a minor who was given no chance of parole. Well, a couple things about this case. Number one, if the guy was such a scumbag that a judge decided to get vicious enough so as to give him 1,000 years. 1,000. Wow. Unless you're the Highlander and therefore immortal, 1,000 years is pretty significant. Or you're a Middle Earth elf, you ain't gonna live 1,000 years. So they were basically locking him up and throwing away the key. Why? If it's that bad that he's gonna be gone for 1,000 years, just get the death penalty going. God damn it! He's a drain on our resources. I don't agree with life imprisonment. If it's bad enough that they need life imprisonment with no chance of parole, I think they should be put to death so that they don't have to be a drain on our taxpayer money. Because in the end, they cost us. And some people say, oh, that's the humane thing to do, and so on, and they have rights and so on. When they turn their back on civilization, and that's what they did, because civilization is basically, it's when a number of people get grouped together and organized under a common system of beliefs and laws. These people turn their back on civilization, and in my opinion, they have no rights. None. Not a one. And it's the way our government works. If you're from another country, you don't have any rights here. You just don't. If you're a criminal, in that regard, you should have no rights. I think when a criminal goes to jail, for the time period that they are incarcerated, they should not have any rights. When they've been rehabilitated and come back out, then I believe they should have rights, because it's part of human rights. It's part of our nation's credo and philosophy. While they're incarcerated, no rights whatsoever. Somebody who's incarcerated for life has no rights, never will. They're insignificant. They're a bug that I stepped on with my shoe. The problem is, this bug, in the end, is costing me money. It's costing you money. It's costing my family money. It's costing my friends money. It's costing everybody money. Why in the hell do we do this? If you go to a doctor and they say you have a tumor, they try to cut it out. Why? So it doesn't tax your system, it doesn't grow and drain you further. Why don't we do this with criminals in that regard? Why? If you're in there for 1,000 years, they've obviously just, tagged you as irredeemable. You're never going to be rehabilitated. You're never going to be worthwhile to our society and our country at all. Why not get rid of them? Or shit, the way things are going, why don't we just ship them to Nigeria? Lord knows they can use some more people with no morals. It disgusts me, okay, that they would do this whole 1,000-year crap. On the same token, you're a fucking rapist. There's only a few things that are lower than that. Most of those involve children. So, if you were raped, or if you raped somebody, what makes you think you have rights? I mean, maybe I've got just an eye for an eye type mentality in my head. If you rape somebody, well, you know what? Maybe you should get raped too. And in a way that's twice as vicious as anything you did to those poor women. appeals court rejected the criminal's claim. But the fact that our system of laws is so screwed up that he could make this appeal and have a reasonable shot of winning disgusts me. The fact that it made the news, and it made the news for the wrong reasons, okay? All they did was rehash what he had done, what the ruling was. They didn't look at any of the implications. Why? It's not a big enough story. They're not going to look at the fact that, oh, there's criminals out there that are just a drain in our system. They're not going to look at the fact that these are the scum of the earth. You know, and I mean, I'm sorry, I wouldn't care if they went and threw him into some maximum security prison in Mississippi where, you know, all they're going to do is break rocks and make license plates, get underfed and such until they pretty much whittle away and die. You know, if that's a speedy process, who cares? Okay, you got a little bit of work out of them, they faded away, we don't have to feed them anymore. Done with them. I mean, hell, I've seen some of this stuff with the prisons. We treat our prisoners better than we treat our homeless. Better than we treat those people who've been displaced in places where disasters have occurred, like the Carolinas and, of course, New Orleans. What does that say about us? I mean, a lot of people say you can gauge a civilization by the state of its criminals. Based on that, we're fat and lazy and don't do anything. It's not exactly the tag you want to have as a nation. But if you really look at the worldview of us, it's fitting. So, that's all I wanted to rant about, because it just offends me that this is even an issue of any sort, and that it's not something that was fixed the way it appropriately should have been fixed and made into a non-issue. So, I'm done. I'm out. Have a good one, and don't go raping people so I throw you in jail for 1,000 years, because I'd be more than happy to throw you in jail. But of course my jail is going to be one that's going to be, you know, sinking into the ocean underwater with no oxygen. That way you're no longer a drain.